Hello, sports fans. My name is Mark Mortier from Yesterday Sports. You're about to jump into another thrilling sports history moment. But first, let's dive into today's sponsor, just in time for the holiday season. Introducing Art of Words, the brainchild of word artist Dan Duffy from Philadelphia. Dan meticulously crafts stunning images by hand writing relevant words from some of the greatest sports moments in time. These unique, budget-friendly illustrations are the perfect gift, sparking cherished memories and capturing hearts. Choose from city skylines, sports, history, and musicians to find a piece for everyone. And here's the exciting part. For that sports fanatic in your life, gift them a piece of their favorite team or player's history. Art of Words tells a compelling story. Explore collegiate stadiums, each meticulously crafted with every football victory etched in words. Or venture into baseball stadiums, handwritten with every player from the team's illustrious history. Don't wait. Order a print today for yourself and your loved ones this holiday season. Transform your wall into a gallery of captivating art and surprise your family and friends with a print of their own. Use code SHN15 at artofwords.com for a 15% discount on your order in November and December. Visit Art of Words, where words magically transform into stunning art, evoking cherished memories and touching the hearts of those you care about. Again, use the code SHN15 for 15% off at artofwords.com.
Good day, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I am Chad, your host on One Guy with a Mic Sportscast, where it's the podcast where I bring the stats so you can state the facts. This week's episode, we're going to talk about the NBA playoffs and a little bit of a season review. Not much of a season review. We're just going to go over stat leaders. Discuss the Lakers because I absolutely hate the Lakers. So anytime they lose, I feel a little bit more proud of my team choice, the Clippers. Also, I need to give a shout out to all my Canadian fans out there. Thanks for looking out for your boy. We are currently ranked number 234 on the Canadian Sports Podcast. So that's pretty awesome, according to Apple. So that's a plus. I love it. Love to hear that stuff. All right. Well, baseball season's underway. So let's talk about overreactions and underreactions. The Cubs have won 2 games already this year, which is way more than I thought they were going to have done by the time the second week of the season started. So that's a plus. I don't think it was going to be as bad as the Cubs team that started 0-14, but I thought it was going to be pretty bad. Needless to say, Ian Happ has shown up and showed out. So, but now he got hit by a pitch on Saturday and is currently on a day-to-day basis. So there's that. You also have the Yankees beating down the Red Sox. So that's fun. I always like to see when the Red Sox lose too. And all my Yankees Twitter is just blowing up with how that team is doing right now as well. Which as I have found myself on Yankee Twitter, which I seem to find a lot of Yankees fans for some reason on Twitter, which is fine. I don't have a problem with the Yankees at all. They are where they are. But to watch your guys' tweets after the lockout ended and how they're like, you need Story, you need one of the pitchers off the A's, you need to go after Freddie Freeman, you need to do this, you need to do that. And then they go out and trade Gary Sanchez and Urshela for IKF and Donaldson and move Torres to second, which Torres isn't even starting every day. which is fine, But to see you guys all upset how they didn't get a Freeman, how they didn't get Story, how they didn't get whoever that you wanted them to get, how they didn't do that, and then to start off the season the way you have by beating the Red Sox twice, to now you guys are like, yeah, Stanton's the man, and I understand, and re-sign Aaron Judge for $500 million. I mean, now let's get into some of his career NBA stats quick. He had a career average is 30.1 points per game. He averaged 6.2 rebounds per game and 5.3 assists per game. That's some gaudy numbers. He's only behind in steals to John Stockton and Jason Kidd. First team ballot Hall of Famer. He's also in the FIBA Hall of Fame. He's won Olympic gold in 84 and 92. He won gold at the Tournament of Americas, and he's got a gold Pan American Games medal as well. Wow. And y'all wonder sometimes why us that grew up watching Jordan thinks he's the best, the greatest player of all time. The guy created his own brand. His brand is still relevant today. He's still worth $1.3 billion every year off the Air Jordan brand. His number one selling shoe is the Retro Ones, which stopped being distributed in 2015. He's had deals with Hanes, Gatorade. The guy is a cultural icon. Space Jam, it came out in 1996 and grossed over $200 million at the box office. Yeah, granted, he wasn't like the best actor, and you can say, and if you're a movie critic, you can say, well, that movie is trash. But to the basketball fans and the kids in the 90s, that movie is straight gold. That's one of those movies that you're like, hey, well, let's watch some 90s movies, and we throw on Sandlot, Rookie of the Year, Space Jam, and Happy Gilmore. Like, that pretty much sums up our entire 90s collection as kids for movies. He cited David Thompson and Walter Davis and Jerry West as influences to his game. His game has influenced LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, and others. Vince Carter gave up his All-Star starting spot in Jordan's last All-Star game for him to be the starter. Wright Thompson described him as a killer in the Charles Darwin sense of the word, immediately sensing and attacking someone's weakness spot. The Bulls built their organization around him. As a player, there's nobody like him. Larry Bird even quoted that, saying that there's only one Michael Jordan, or actually what he said was, God has came back in the form of Michael Jordan. Larry Legend said that after a playoff battle in the 80s. He unretired. He retired to go play baseball. And yeah, I understand there's gambling rumors out there, but I legit think he just got tired of basketball because he could just dominate anybody on the floor. And as a competitor, he needed a new challenge. So he went and tried playing baseball. And, I mean, the guy even did well there. And not like well. I mean, he only played at Birmingham, but still. I mean, he did play in an exhibition between the Cubs and the White Sox. No one has matched what Jordan has been able to do since. We can talk LeBron. We can talk Kobe. Yeah, LeBron's got more points scored. And Kobe, had an outside shot. And Kobe had that killer instinct just like Jordan. He's in the Basketball Hall of Fame as an individual and also as the Dream Team. He was voted the number one athlete of the 20th century over Babe Ruth and Muhammad Ali. He owns part of the he's still majority owner of the Hornets. He's not the sole owner anymore. He still has Jordan. He still goes out and plays golf. I mean, he played golf with Charles Barkley during the 93 finals just so that he could crush him on the floor the next day. He beat the likes of Magic Johnson, Clyde Drexler, Charles Barkley, John Stockton and Karl Malone, Shawn Kemp and Gary Payton. He beat Shaq and he broke up the Magic. The Magic beat him in the second round when he came back from retirement. And then the next year, the Bulls beat them and broke up that team. Patrick Ewing doesn't have a ring because Michael Jordan. Magic Johnson doesn't have 6 rings because of Michael Jordan. Larry Bird doesn't have 4 rings because of Michael Jordan. Isaiah Thomas wasn't on the Dream Team because of Michael Jordan. He let it be known that once you stepped on the floor with him or at any competition, he was going to destroy you. And that's what he did. He developed a jump shot. He admits that the Air Jordan brand, took away some of the jump shot because everybody wanted to dunk. That's what everybody wants to do. But you can't sit here and tell me that there's someone better. You can't sit here and tell me a guy that has 4 rings is better than a guy with 6 rings. And rings don't even matter to me. I've already discussed that. Championships really don't matter. But the stats and the way Jordan played, when he's winning on offense and then he's playing defense, and he's not slacking on defense either. He's guarding Clyde Drexler. He's guarding Gary Payton. He's guarding Magic. And that's the thing. That 91 Lakers team wasn't soft. That 91 Lakers team it was on the tail end of their 80s runs. But still, they were not soft. This guy averaged 38.3 minutes per game for a career. He shot 49% from the field. He shot 32% from the three-point range. However, three-pointers weren't a huge thing when, during that time. You drove the bucket, you did mid-range shots. He had a 83% free throw percentage. And he averaged almost a block a game. Even in his last year, his average line was 20 points. And this is at him at, I think he was 40. How old was Mr. Jordan? Yeah, he would have been 40. So his last year he turned 40 during the season. And he averaged 20 points, 3.8 assists, 6.1 rebounds. He shot 82% from the line, 44% from the field, and he still played 37 minutes a game. And that was without even starting 15 games. If Jordan was on the court, you were going to lose. Most times. Yeah, did he have his bad games? Yes. But there are few and far between. Like, Jordan is an icon. He was compared to Julius Erving coming up. And we all know how good Julius Erving was, right? I mean, go on YouTube. I'm sure you can find some highlights of him in the NBA and the ABA. Jackson compared Jordan's dominance to Shaquille O'Neal, stating Michael would get fouled on every play and still have to play through it and just clear himself for shots instead and would rise to that occasion. Al Michaels once said that he was able to read a basketball box score on a 27-inch television clearly from about 50 feet away. Try that. I know we don't have 27-inch TVs around much anymore, but why don't you find one and try that? Let me tell me how hard that is. Like, this 92 or the 1996 Bulls went 72-10. Do you know? Oh, sorry. I take that back. That wasn't the 96-97 Bulls. That was the 95-96 Bulls that went 72-10. The 96-97 Bulls went 69-11. And the 97-98 Bulls went 62-20. So, yeah, and you could say that you had Rodman and Pippen and Jordan. Okay, that's fine, but you still had Kukoc and Kerr. Like, that team was dominant. Their first 7 guys off the bench would just dominate you. In the playoffs, here's another deal. So, I wish I would have found Jordan's playoff record, other than 6, to see how many games he actually lost. But it wasn't many, because in the 90s anyways. In the 80s, he got beat up. Oh, man. In the 80s, anytime he went to the playoffs, he had to play Detroit. He had to play Boston, and they would just beat him up. I mean, he did score. He does have a playoff career high against the Celtics that is still has not been broken yet, because the Celtics were like, hey, we're just going to let Jordan score and not everybody else. He put up 63 points in a playoff game. The Trailblazers still regret drafting Sam Bowie. They only did it because they needed a center. I mean, when you still have the best player on the board, I'm sure you take the best player on the board, right? Like, that's what we have to do. the Pistons would hit him every time he came into the lane. You talk about guys going in and getting fouled now. Well, guess what? They didn't call fouls. If a guard came into the middle of the paint, he was getting hit on his butt. He was going to land on his rear end, and they weren't going to call a foul. That's all there is to it. Today's game is completely changed because of the bad boy Pistons, the Lakers, the Malones, the Kemps of the world. Like, I don't think half of this league could play back in the 80s and 90s. There's some that could, but I think half of them couldn't, because a lot of them rely on that shot from deep. They rely on they can't take a foul. So yeah, I mean, he once punched Steve Kerr in the face because they got an argument at practice. It's just mind-boggling how well he has done with his career as everything. Here's a guy from North Carolina and got cut from his varsity basketball team as a sophomore because he said he was too short at 5'11". And then he became the greatest player of all time. And I understand that's an opinion. I understand that it's completely opinionated right there. When I say he's the greatest player of all time, I understand that is my opinion and nobody else's. But when people are still looking up to him and still trying to be him, not to be him, but just to get on that level, that is the crazy part. That's what's ridiculous. Yeah. Here, 1985-86, as a 22-year-old in the NBA, he put up 63 points. And he grabbed 19 rebounds one game. Like, he could do it all. As a 6'6" guard out of North Carolina, he did it all on the court. And Jackson built the offense around... The triangle offense was built around Jordan. But But why not? But why not build that offense around Jordan? Why not let the triangle offense run through Jordan? Before he started his championship run in the 90s, he had been to the Eastern Conference Finals in 89 and in 90. So he was already on the cusp. Okay? He got beat by Detroit in 89. He got beat by Detroit in 7 games in 1990. And then it was just straight domination. The Lakers in the finals beat them 4-1. Portland beat them 4-2. Phoenix beat them 4-2. Seattle beat them 4-2. In 96. 97, the Jazz in 4-2. 98, 4-2. He went to a game 7 against Indiana in 98, won that. He went to a game 7 against the Knicks in 92 and won that. So he went to a Game 7 against Detroit in 1990, lost that one. So the man has played in 1, 2, 3 Game 7s. That's all he played. He's played 3 Game 7s his entire career. That means he straight up finished teams off. After that 95 Orlando series, when they lost 2-4 in the Eastern Conference semis, he'd never lost a playoff matchup ever again. After he lost in the Eastern Conference Finals against Detroit, he did not lose another playoff series, ever again. Like, who's going out there to beat you? That was it. And you know what? This is fitting. It's 23 minutes. I'm going to call it great. Jordan, if you want more info on him, go to basketballreference.com. Look up his stats. Go to YouTube. Watch his videos. He wore 45. And he wore 45 and then got fined when he switched back to 23 because Nick Anderson decided to make a comment about how 45 doesn't look as well as 23 does. 45 is pretty flat. Then he comes out and puts up, and granted he lost the series, but then he still comes out and puts up 38 points the next game against Nick Anderson. As he's wearing 23. The Bulls and him both get fined for it. And then he just started wearing 23 again. He had to wear number 12 in 1991 against the Magic at one point. But we talk about great players. We talk about Larry Bird walking into a 3-point contest and looks around in the room and says, who's going to finish second? Larry Bird also won a 3-point contest at the NBA All-Star Game without taking off his shooting jacket. Here's Jordan. When he decides to come back to basketball, he sends a fax that just says, I'm back. And then went out and did Jordan things. That baseball hiatus, I think, reinvigorated Jordan. I think he went out and he failed. I wouldn't even say it was a failure, but he did bat 200 and didn't get out of the minor leagues. But he was, I think if he would have been a few years younger and not 31, he probably could have made it as a baseball player too. Because he could read the ball off the bat for an outfielder. He could run and steal bases. And eventually, he worked so hard that he could finally hit the curveball, because that was the biggest thing that he couldn't do. If he is younger, he is definitely making it a baseball career. And also think about this. We have baseball and football players that wear his shoes as cleats. His net worth is $1.6 billion, y'all. Let me know how that works out for anybody else. So, and also, he had to quit baseball because of the strike, because he didn't want to be a replacement player, which I get. I really hope that this lockout gets over and we stop and we don't have to have that issue. Really hope the owners get their head out their asses. So, his 1 year, let's just talk about baseball quick, and then let's just talk about this quick. So he played 100 and 27 games with the Birmingham Barons in 1994. Had 497 plate appearances, 436 at-bats. He had 46 runs, he had 88 hits, 17 doubles, 1 triple, 3 home runs, drove in 51 RBIs. Now, here's a great stat. He had 30 stolen bases. 18 caught stealings. He walked 51 times. He struck out 114 times. I mean, we look at 114 times now. Like, geez, that guy really had a lot of plate appearances. His batting average was 202. Not great. But again, he didn't get into the swing of things until halfway through the season. On-base percentage was 290. Slugging percentage was 266. OPS was 556. He had 116 total bases. He only grounded into 4 double plays. He had 4 hit by pitches, 3 sac hits, 3 sac flies, no intentional walks. He had a 95% fielding percentage. He had 6 assists from the outfield. I mean, he did commit 11 errors, but still. So, yeah. He could do it. He could just do it all. I mean, as a kid from the 90s, we had posters of Jordan on our wall. We had to buy the new Jordans that came out. I remember as soon as I got my first paycheck, I went out and bought a pair of Jordans. Jordan 12s were the first pair of Jordans I ever had. And then there was the 13s. And the guy is a legend. And I am very thankful I got to see him play as a kid growing up to appreciate what he did. To appreciate everything he put in the game. So, and that's the beauty about... I'm going to really age myself here, but that's okay. That's the beauty about the guys my age, or the basketball fans my age, that grew up in the 90s, and we saw Jordan play. We then got to see Kobe play. Then we got to see LeBron play. We got to see Larry Bird at the end of his career. We got to see Magic Johnson as well. We got to see the glove, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, David Robinson, Timmy Duncan, Kevin Garnett, Shaquille O'Neal. We got to see these dudes come up and show out their game and try to beat each other every single night. No one was hopping on teams to be with their friends, because rarely were they friends outside of basketball. Paul Pierce still hates LeBron James to this day. Because Paul Pierce is an old school guy. No way was Paul Pierce is going to be like, I'm going to go join up with LeBron. Like, no. The 90s basketball, you guys have no idea how special of a time that was. Because you had 3-point shooting. You had shooters like Reggie Miller. You had guys like John Starks. You had Charles Oakley's, who, by the way, Charles Oakley was Jordan's best friend when he was on the Bulls, because Oakley was his enforcer. Like, it blows my mind sometimes on how people are like, LeBron James is way better than Jordan. He's not. Yes, is LeBron James the best player in this generation? Yes. Yes, he is. Does he have more assists? Yes, because guess what? James has played more of a point forward career. He's modeled his career after Magic Johnson. If you compare James and Johnson and watch those, that's who you have. You have a 6'9" point guard. Okay? No one's like Jordan. 6'6" shooting guard, small forward, could guard all 5 positions if he had to, get you a rebound, go down to the other end and score the game. The dude was clutch. And there was 3 things that made up the 90s. Jordan, hip-hop, and pagers. No, I really had like all 3 of them lined up earlier, and I wrote it down, and I don't know what I did with it. So, yeah, it was Jordan and hip-hop, basically. That is what influenced the 90s. Allen Iverson beat Jordan off the dribble. But guess what? Jordan still beat him. Yeah. You guys really need to go on YouTube and start watching some Jordan highlights. That's all there is to it. He inspired so many kids to play basketball. He inspired so many people just to try to be great at whatever they do. The guy is an influential person, whether it's on a field, on a basketball court, on a golf course, or even as a business person. So, happy birthday, Michael Jordan. Thank you for providing the entertainment and showing others the desire and the will to win. Thank you for that. Thank you for being you. And I know you're probably not going to hear this podcast, but I just want to say thanks, Michael Jordan. You made a lot of kids that are now grown-ass adults extremely happy in the 90s. And on that note, y'all have a great day. I'll be on tomorrow. We'll be dropping Friday's podcast tomorrow still. We're going to talk the NBA season since this is the All-Star break, and how fittingly the All-Star break always rolls around when it's Jordan's birthday. That's the epitome of the NBA right there. I have emails from listeners, so we are going to, I got one of them answered. All the other ones, I will get to yours, I promise, but I do have a response to the one. So, to at least one of them. All right, y'all have a great day. And hey, don't forget that you have to hit the follow button and the bell, so that way I get into your playlist, and then you get a notification when I drop another podcast. Let's keep growing this thing. I appreciate y'all. Have a great day. Philly's 23 assists, Toronto's 22. Steals, 7.65, almost 9 for Toronto. Blocks, 5.3 for Philly, 4.62 for Toronto. Field goal percentage, again, 2 points separate them. 46 for Philly, 44 for Toronto. Free throw percentage, 81 and 75. That's the only huge difference that they are, is Philly's the better free throw shooting. But when you got Harden that shoots 89%, I mean, that helps. Then 3-point wise, it's 36 and 34. So, yeah, it's going to be a close series. I'm not a fan of Doc Rivers, but I think he can get, because he does. I'm not a fan of Doc Rivers because he doesn't make in-game adjustments. I've talked about that before. He doesn't make in-game adjustments, and therefore it's hard for me to appreciate him as a coach. And sometimes you don't need to make those in-game adjustments, but playoff times you do. So his drought of championships is going to continue this year. Philadelphia wins this series 4-2, 4-3. somewhere in there. It's not going to be a sweep. It's not going to be a 4-1 series either. Toronto's a better team than that, and Toronto could pull off the upset. But especially if Harden goes really cold and they can stop Embiid. And over when you're playing the same team 7 times, it's a lot better to game plan that way. So we'll go with Philly. All right, next up is Boston and Chicago. This reminds me of an 80s matchup between the Boston and Chicago, but that was Bird and Jordan, and this is going to be Tatum and Levine. Chicago was hot. I mean, they were the 1 seed at the 1 seed at the All-Star break. And for a while there, they looked like they were the team to beat in the East. And then they just fell off. I mean, they just fell off. So, where Boston looked like they were going to have to trade some pieces, going to start rebuilding, and then all of a sudden, they caught fire. And it's the misfortunes of the two. Like, they basically flip-flopped. So, Boston's record was 50-31. Probably going to be 51-31. Be the 3rd seed. They averaged 111 points per game, gave up 104, which they have the 2nd best defensive rating in the NBA. The Celtics do. And I think that with them being that efficient on defense is going to help them in these playoffs. Because if you can just because the playoff basketball is all about getting stops and then scoring off those stops. And the Celtics could definitely do that. Boston with DeRozan, Vucevic, Lonzo Ball is out for the year, so that sucks. So, but yeah, I mean, DeRozan, he's been a good player all year. Still have Levine. I think Boston is just too hard for them. They spread the ball around way too much. And Boston is just going to, I wouldn't say roll this series, but they'll win it. The Bulls might sneak one out. The Bulls might just sneak one of them out, but that's about it. So I think Boston goes 4-1, 4-2. I mean, it's going to be a good series, but it's not going to be a great series. It's not going to be like those old Boston-Chicago matchups that used to be. So now we got the 2 and the 7 over here on the East. You got Milwaukee and Brooklyn. 2 heavyweights. This is probably supposed to, I think this was the projected matchup for the Eastern Conference Finals at the start of the year for a lot of people. But here we have it in the first round. Okay, we have it in the first round. Brooklyn is got Irving and Durant now. But the Bucks have Antetokounmpo, Holiday, and Middleton. Like, their 3 have stuck around a little bit. So and the funny thing is, so I'm looking at these stats on ESPN. So I'm getting all my stats. I'm getting my team comparisons from ESPN.com. I got my league leader stat from basketballreference.com. Okay. But I'm looking at Brooklyn stat leaders, and since Durant nor Irving make the 58-game minimum, their leading scorer this year was Patty Mills at 11.4 points per game. Now that's funny. That's hilarious to me that you have Durant and Irving, and due to those guys not playing the minimum number of games, you have Patty Mills as your leading scorer. All right. So the head-to-head matchup this year, Milwaukee won 3 out of the 4 games, with the last one going to overtime, and Antetokounmpo had 44 points to Durant's 26, which he was the high. So, but Irving is Irving, and you have two of the best shooters right now in the NBA with Irving and Durant on the same team. And either one of them can go off, as has been seen throughout this season, can go off for 60 points a game. The downside to these two teams, or at least the downside to the Nets, is they don't play defense that well. That's for sure. They're not really. They're 19th for opponent points per game, and their defensive rating is 19th as well. So they don't really play that well of defense. Where Milwaukee has a little bit better on the defensive end. Milwaukee's definitely gonna have to rely, if Middleton and Holiday can't get going, and it's relying all upon Giannis to win the game. I think Giannis can take it over and win it, but I don't think he can do it for 4 games to get 4 wins out of this deal. So definitely, Brooklyn has the advantage there, and I'm leaning with an upset here. And I wouldn't even really call it an upset because I think Brooklyn can do it. I mean, throughout the season, they weren't the better team, but I think this matchup, a 7-game series, I think Brooklyn wins 4 out of the 7. The series goes 7 games, and Brooklyn wins 1. And Brooklyn wins it. So, and let's just break it down really quick. Points for, Milwaukee's 114. Points against, 111.9. Brooklyn, points for is 112.16, 112.6, and 111.9. So they give about the same points per game. Rebounding wise, Milwaukee rebounds at 2 rebounds a game better. Brooklyn moves the ball 2 assists better. They have about the same steals, 7. Block shots, it's 4 and 5. They shoot the ball about the same, and they're really, So these two teams are very evenly matched up. And, the defensive rating for Milwaukee's 13th. So, again, they're not really that stout at defending either. But I think really do just think Brooklyn's going to be able to pull this off. So, next matchups in the second round, you got Miami and Philly. All right. And then, so let's start with Miami and Philly. The Heat compared to the 76ers. Now, Jimmy Butler can do Jimmy Butler things, right? So, let's see. So again, a couple close teams. So now we're getting a little bit closer in how things took place over the season. They split the season series 2-2. And Miami had, again, 110, and Philadelphia had 109.8. So they score the same amount of points per game. Philadelphia gives up 2 more points per game with 107 and 103. Again, you got Harden and Embiid, which are good, but I think Spoelstra is the better coach here. And the defensive rating for the 76ers is 12th. Their net rating is a plus 2.6. Meanwhile, Miami has a net rating of a plus 4.8. They got a defensive rating which is 5th in the league, and they're a top 10 offense. So, and their points against their opponent points per game is 3rd. So, I think the Heat hold them in check. I mean, you got Robinson, and so Tucker is going to be reevaluated in a week. He's out a little bit, So I mean, they're pretty much a healthy squad, and they'll just be able to own it. I mean, Jimmy Butler's going to show up and do Jimmy Butler things. You got Kyle Lowry, Adebayo, Hero, and then you got Robinson. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So the Heat, being the 1 seed, are going to end up winning this thing against the 76ers. Probably go 6 games. Doc Rivers still is Doc Rivers, and Miami makes the Eastern Conference Finals, because isn't that what Butler showed up to do anyways? I thought so. All right, next up you got Boston and Brooklyn. Now, this is a good match. See, this bottom side of the East is just really good between 2 7s and the 3-7 matchup right here, because they're very, very. They match up very well. So you got Boston took 3 out of the 4 games this year. Boston, again, averages 111 points a game. Brooklyn averages 112. Boston only gives up 104. Brooklyn gives up 111. You got Tatum, Williams, Smart, Jaylen Brown. So you got Grant Williams that can shoot the 3. I think that even though as well as Brooklyn shoots the ball, you're going to put Jason Tatum on Kevin Durant. You can put Jaylen Brown on, or Marcus Smart.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I wanted to thank you for stopping by to listen to another episode here on the Sports History Network. Our podcasters are passionate about uncovering and sharing sports stories from yesteryear. And if you didn't know it already, we have over 30 shows across the network covering all sorts of sports history topics. In fact, here's a glimpse into one of our awesome podcasts here on the network.
The Pigskin Tales podcast is all about the lesser-known pro football players. Yes, there are stories about the ones we know, like Brad Tarkenton and Harold Red Grange. But have you ever heard of Ernie Nevers? How about Dave Osborne or even Grady Alderman? These men created their own path to the NFL. How did they do it? Listen to the Pigskin Tales podcast, now streaming on your favorite music platform. Go to pigskintales.com.
How about that? I bet you're super hyped to go listen to that new podcast, right? Well, to learn about this show and all the other podcasts on the network, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com/podcast. Again, that's sportshistorynetwork.com/podcast. Head over there today to find your next favorite sports history podcast.